everything that happens in terms of the Republican Party's bag of dirty tricks always happens in Pennsylvania as well. And so I wonder if you can talk about this effort there and how you're pushing back.
Well, they're continuing on with their efforts to try and undermine the vote, to try and take away the voice of Pennsylvanians. We talked a lot in the run-up to the election and then post-election about their efforts. The good news is we had state actors, attorneys general, governors, and others who pushed back and won and made sure that the will of the people was heard. But recognizing that they couldn't win under these current rules, they're now trying to change it. And there's two real efforts that are underway here in Pennsylvania. Number one, they're trying to undermine the vote by mail law that they voted for 2 years ago. In fact, more Republicans voted for it than Democrats did 2 years ago. Now they're trying to make it harder for people to vote by mail. Little data on this. They pushed forward that initiative to increase voter participation. It worked. Voter participation went up 7.6%. About 38% of the votes were cast by mail. Problem for them was 75% of those votes were cast for Joe Biden. They didn't like that. So that's one big thing they're doing. The second thing they're trying to do is gerrymander the courts here in Pennsylvania. Actually take away the right for people to elect their judges. Right now, they elect 31 judges across this Commonwealth. They're trying to take that right away so they can put their buddies in charge of selecting who the new judges will be, which no doubt will not reflect the will of the people and will certainly not reflect the great diversity of this Commonwealth.
Josh, I think something that people don't understand in hindsight, and maybe they do, maybe we all sort of felt this viscerally, is how close they were. But for the fact that every effort was a failure, that every judge before whom they presented their fact-free complaints. And you're right, they made a lot of the rules that they later tried to fight and tear down and not play by because they didn't like how the votes came in. But can you just relive for us what might have been different if any one of their tricks had worked in the Commonwealth?
Yeah, I mean, Nicole, you are so right. At the end of the day, notwithstanding Trump and his enablers, just relentless attacks on our democracy, it was the county election clerks and the judges and the attorney general and the governor, the people who were in these positions of power who respected the will of the people and thwarted those efforts, who were the ones that ultimately allowed the will of the people to be heard. Imagine what would have happened in some of these swing states if we didn't have Democratic governors, if we didn't have some of the leadership that we had. And then follow this through all the way to January the 6th, when you had, spineless enablers, and Claire knows him well, like Josh Hawley, who went to the floor of the United States Senate just moments after the insurrection was cleared and continued with the lie. And I said this before on your program, I'll say it again. Had Mitch McConnell been the majority leader and there been a Republican speaker in the House, I don't know if the institution would have held. I think they would have tried to steal this election even further, notwithstanding the good work that those election clerks and AGs and governors did all across this country to protect the will of the people. When you have folks who are willing to sell out the Constitution, to sell out our democracy in the name of sucking up to Donald Trump or any actor for that matter, that puts our situation, that puts our democracy at grave risk. And thank God for the great state actors who did what they had to do. But we've got to have a real gut check moment in this country about how we go forward and how we do some truth telling so we can get back to some basics in our democracy.
Yeah, I mean, Claire, this is the crisis, right? That because the big lie was repeated so many times and many members of the base believed it, the Republicans then said, well, I have to serve my base. They only had to serve their base because they'd lied to their base, and their base now believed the lie. How do you break the cycle?
Well, I do think, we have some time and energy on our hands now, because if we're brutally honest, a whole lot of people that love your show spend a lot of time listening to and worrying about the former guy. What did he tweet? What has he done now? What lie has he told today? So we need to take all that energy and we need to transfer it to paying attention what's going on in state legislatures. I want to recommend Democracy Docket. Democracy Docket is a great location. This is being run by the lawyers that won all of those cases across the country. All of the cases that were brought by the big lie aficionados and the clown car of lawyers, including Rudy Giuliani at the steering wheel. The lawyers that combated those lawsuits successfully are now looking at all of this legislation, and you can find out what's going on in your state. What are they proposing? How do you get a hold of the people you need to get a hold of to let them know that they've got to fight this? This is not what you want. I really think that we've got to turn our energy to protecting our democracy over the next 18 months, so we will be prepared to win these important elections in 2022.
Mr. Attorney General, I think Clara just told me to get off Twitter and read something called democracydocket.gov. I want to give you...
They're on Twitter, too. They're on Twitter, too. You'll find them on Twitter, Democracy Docket. They're there.
I love it. But I want to ask you how this is communicated day to day to the people you serve in Pennsylvania. How is this made as urgent on the other side as the liars make it on the right?
I think, folks have recognized the fragility of their democracy through this episode. They've recognized the importance of state actors, like I said, like governors and AGs and your county clerks who run the elections. And I think that they recognize you can't simply take this democracy for granted. I think there's a lot of Republicans and certainly independents who are now saying, I didn't sign up for this. I may have liked Donald Trump and voted for him back in 2016 and maybe even contemplated voting for him in 2020. But this is not what I signed up for. I didn't sign up to suck up to one person. I signed up for certain values or certain, issues that I care about. And so for me in Pennsylvania, what it's all about is truth telling. It's all about making sure people understand what really happened, not the nonsense that Trump and his enablers are feeding them, and to make sure that going forward, we have these state actors in the right positions to guard against attempts like this in the future. Just because Trump may not be on the ballot doesn't mean that these issues go away. And I think we've got to remain vigilant in the protection of our democracy. That's the work I'll do as Attorney General, and I know many others are doing right now here in Pennsylvania and across this country.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.